Hi, my name is Celine, and today I will tell you the story of the Sleeping Beauty Part 2. For the rest of your life, of course, said Fauna. No, this is all wrong. Aurora turned to the three fairies and said in a firm voice, I would rather prick my finger on a spinning wheel and fall asleep for 100 years than marry someone I do not want. Maybe by the time I wake up, times will be different, and people won't have to get married if they don't want to. She ran out the door. Dear me, said Merryweather to the other two fairies. I don't believe that went over very well. Aurora ran into the woods where her animal friends lived. A deer hopped beside her, along with the rabbits and chipmunks. We have to get out of here, she said. Pointing to the forbidden mountains, she said, we will go through those hills. I must find a spinning wheel, and quickly too, so I can prick my finger upon it and fall asleep for 100 years. Aurora and her animal friends marched through the hills. On the otherwise, she looked around. The world there was much like the world closer to home. However, one thing was different. In front of her was a path. The path led to a road. In the distance, she heard a clapping sound and saw a cloud of dust. It was a carriage, coming their way. As the rider approached, her animal friends scattered. Hail, said the stranger. I'm afraid my carriage scared away your pets. May I give you a lift? Or help you in any way? Aurora had never seen a man before. But she couldn't think about that. Unless she could find a spinning wheel, her aunts could find her and whisk her back to the palace, where she'd have to marry a horrid prince. Actually, Aurora said slowly to the stranger, there is something that I need. What's that? Said he, hopping out of the carriage. Very nicely dressed he was, and well-mannered too. A spinning wheel, said Aurora. A spinning wheel, said the stranger. But there are none left in the land, everyone knows that. Well, you see, said Aurora, rubbing her hands together, I have this friend. She needs to find a spinning wheel, and right away too. Aurora looked directly at the stranger. It's important. The stranger returned her gaze. He said in a low voice, I may know of one. But this must stay between you and me. The stranger stepped closer. Not far from here lives an old woman who spun yarn all her life. When the order came to burn all the spinning wheels, she could not bear to let go of her beloved spinning wheel that had been in her family for years. She came to me. He pointed down the road. She knew I'm a prince from the next kingdom, and she begged me to store it away safely for her. So I put it in the attic room of my castle tower. No one ever goes there. Once the 16 years are over, and the Princess Aurora returns, I will return it to her. Would you take me to your castle tower? Said Aurora. I shouldn't, said the prince. After a moment, he added, of course, yes. I will. When they arrived at his castle tower, they both stepped out of the carriage. The prince said, You're not doing this for your friend, are you? Thank you for taking me here, said Aurora in a firm voice. I will remember your kindness. Now if you please, I must do what I must do. Aurora turned and went up the winding tower stairs, up to the very last stair at the top. There was a wooden door in front of her, and it creaked open. Inside, all was dark and musty. Aurora could barely take a step out of all the spider webs. But she pushed them aside and stepped forward. There in a corner was a spinning wheel. From the small attic window, she could tell the sun was setting. I hope this works, she said, before it's too late. Aurora held out her finger to the tip of the spindle. One prick on the spindle, a tiny droplet of blood dripped from her finger, and at once Aurora felt dizzy. She fell onto an old dusty velvet blanket on the floor, and there she fell into a deep sleep. Moments later, all the others in the castle, servants and royals alike, fell asleep too. So did the prince, who was still waiting for her outside the tower. Almost immediately, thorns and vines sprung up and wrapped around the castle so thickly that no human or beast could pass through. For 100 years, Aurora and the others and then around the castle slept. After 100 years, Aurora blinked her eyes awake. At that moment, the others in the castle woke up too. Everyone started to do what they had been doing the moment before they had fallen asleep. In moments, the thorns and vines around the castle melted away. Aurora stepped down the tower stairs. There stood the prince, rubbing his eyes. He was still waiting for her. I feel different, said the prince. Do you? They smiled. They stepped into the prince's carriage and followed the road. But instead of the market square, the prince expected to find, in the very same place, a whole new world, completely different from what they had known. After 100 years, bicycles and streetcars, telephones and streetlights. Marvels neither one of them could even have imagined were real. Perhaps best of all, they learned that in this strange new world, it was quite all right for young women and men to get to know each other better, if that's what they wanted to do. If they fell in love, so be it, and if they did not, well, that was fine too. Aurora and the prince took each other's hand, because getting to know each other better was exactly what they wanted to do.